There's fully refundable tax credits, which somebody like New Mexico, it's very popular. That is basically where you do, just like with the grants, you hit your markers. So you do the minimum criteria that the state requires, whatever that might be. And that's going to be different in every state. But you hit those markers and then you eventually file a tax return in that state because it's a tax credit, right? You file that and then they will offset your liability in the state, which, to be honest, usually you don't have a building or full-time employees and all that good stuff in that state you're shooting in, so you don't have liability. So then that's why it's called fully refundable. You get a dollar for dollar return from the Department of Revenue / film office at the state level after you filed your tax return. So they want you to file it. They basically say you're getting back, $1 million in tax credit. Do you have any liability in the state? They look at their taxes, they say no, then they give you $1 million back. Then there's transferable tax credits, which is similar, except when you get your credit, think of everything I just talked about with refundable. When you get your credit, the state doesn't give you a check. That will never happen with a fully transferable state. What happens is you're kind of stuck with that tax credit, but it's transferable. So that's the key. And what you need to do is you need to transfer it to a company that has that liability in the state, right? This is like the credit in Georgia. And, Georgia has a lot of large companies there, Home Depot and Chick-fil-A and Coke, they're all based there. And so when you have amount of large companies like that, they have a big need for these tax credits. And that's why that program has been so successful, is because they will buy those tax credits from the productions. So the production gets a tax credit. It's not money yet. They have to go sell it on the open market. Now that's key because there's a discount involved with transferable. What are you going to sell it for? It's whatever the market demands, right? It's not going to be dollar for dollar. So you got to be careful when you're budgeting. So you might say, I'm going to Georgia. I think I'm getting back $1 million, but it's actually $1 million in tax credits. So what are you going to sell that for on the open market? It could be a 10% discount because a large company will say, okay, I'm going to buy that credit from you, but I'm going to buy it at 90 cents on the dollar. Because why would they ever buy it from you at dollar for dollar? Doesn't make sense. So it's like a Groupon. Is that still a thing? Where it's like, you say, oh, I'm going to like this restaurant. I bought this Groupon for $40 worth of food, but I paid 20 for it. So they're paying you 90 cents on the dollar so they're paying you $900,000 in cash. So you get the cash and then they profit because now they're getting $1 million in credits to offset their credit in the state of, for example, Georgia. Those are the two big ones. There are some ones that are in between like that with tax credits. There's partially refundable, which is like Louisiana, where the state does issue a check, but there's a discount built in. So you don't sell it. It's similar to fully refundable, but it's partially refundable. They give you a portion of it back. So the discount's already built in. And then there's non-refundable, non-transferable tax credit. And I promise is the last one. Non-transferable, non-refundable. And that's where you are technically stuck with it. You can't sell it. The state won't give you a check for it. All you can use it for is liability. So you can only use it to offset your own liability in the state. You can't sell it to someone else that has liability in the state. This is successful in California with the studios, right? So for the studios, they have a non-transferable, non-refundable because they have liability in California. So it's a win-win for them. It may not work as well, and it doesn't work as well in other states. So that's the long-winded answer and the breakdown of the types of credits there are.